Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting episode of the Vinny Eastwood Show, the show where the music never stops and the technical difficulties are a plague and the light of this world seems to shrink and vanish into some description of deep underground New Zealand-based bunker full of, scary Nazi zombies who incidentally, happened to be genetically engineered and invaded this country long ago and are now ahead of the parliament. Now, my very special guest is James Bartley, who is an alien abductee. He's exposed high levels of spiritual warfare, but nevertheless retains a positive, upbeat outlook on life, so he's a good fit for the show. He's an independent historian specialising in military history with an emphasis on intelligence, counterintelligence, and special operations. Now, people might think that military intelligence is an oxymoron. James has studied the development of the intelligence and security apparatus, which is spawned by the Second World War and the OSS. And I always found funny how the OSS was just basically a couple of serpents and an all-seeing eye kind of logo. That was very interesting. It's like, that doesn't look like the Illuminati trying to take control of the United States and the Department of Defense at all, does it? No, not at all. Kind of like the MI5 and MI6 logos, which are basically just a pyramid all-seeing eye. Now, he's lectured in a number of places, including Memphis, Tennessee, and the state of Mississippi, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, San Diego, California, at the UFO Friendship Campouts near Area 51, manning a sniper rifle, just in case anybody from the security forces comes and blows his head off, Las Vegas, Nevada, and Roswell, New Mexico, and just to name a few. He's also co-facilitated alien abduction and MILAB, military abductions, support groups in San Diego, California, and in the high desert of Southern California. And he lived in notorious UFO hotspots in Southern and Northern California and the Tri-States region where Cali, Arizona, and Nevada meet. And is also a co-author along the way with many other noted researchers in a series of books called The Universal Seduction, which Barack Obama is a good follower of. That's why he managed to universally seduce everybody in the United States. And you think that they may be under some form of mind control when they suddenly seem to go mad. Have you noticed that the whole country seems to be going absolutely mad, and crimes just keep getting committed all the time? That are just like, what? Cutting your baby's limbs off, things like that. There's some real weird stuff going down in the United States, man. Personally, I blame the SSRI drugs, but I could be wrong. James, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Vinny. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. Thank you so much.
Well, with such a vast array of knowledge and interest in all of this, I'd love to hear your personal story of how this actually started all happening for you, your abduction story and what have you. Were you in the military? What?
I was a Navy brat, so I followed my parents from one naval air station to another. I basically grew up in a military family, and as a result, I was subjected at an early age to the Republican brainwashing, i.e. that everything that the big brother does is for the good, and basically we're always on the right side, and there's always a good reason to intervene in this, that, or the other country. And I basically fell along with that. But all the same, I was conducting my own research in ancient history, mythology, military history. I always had an interest in UFOs. And over the years, beginning at an early age, I always had unusual experiences, psychic phenomena, UFO sightings. What I later realized were alien abduction encounters, both in full waking consciousness and in the astral dreamscape, astral abductions. And I thought that it was normal. I thought that everyone had such experiences, and I was quite surprised later to find out that that wasn't the case, or at least that people may have been having them, just not talking about them. So I learned early on that all is not as it seems. Ironically, what woke me up out of my stupor and shunted me out of the false left-right paradigm was a series of alien abductions in 1990 after I had returned from Germany. I spent the summer in Germany. And as a result, I began going to UFO conferences, and sitting on a table was a heap of books. And I sidled over to the table, looked down. The first book I saw was Shadows of Power about the Council on Foreign Relations. I flipped through the book and I noticed, gee, all these Republicans and Democrats seem to be part of the Council on Foreign Relations. This explains everything. This is why nothing ever changes and things get progressively worse, because they all seem to be in on this globalist agenda.
I believe that's why they call themselves progressives.
That's right. They progressively and gradually take away everyone's rights and gradually and progressively attain more power.
Can you think?
So that's.
Can you think at any point that they've passed a law to give you more rights?
Well, that's what I try to tell people is, you would think once in a while the ball would bounce in our direction. Some piece of legislation would slip through the cracks and they would just leave us alone in some little small segment of our lives. But of course, that's never the case. It's full spectrum dominance. The food is tainted. The air we breathe is chem sprayed, fluoridation, the lot. It's full spectrum dominance. It's all out assaults on the human immune system, on the DNA, and on our very souls, which is what I'm here to talk about. So as far as learning what I call the surface level manipulation was all about, surface level, i.e. the outward manifestations of the reptilian overlordship, which people refer to as the New World Order, Illuminati, so on and so forth. That book, Shadows of Power, really opened my eyes. And then from there, I realized, well, there are really no good guys or bad guys. These are opposames, as David Icke calls them. There is no difference. It's an illusion of choice. And it's ironic, and I tell people, well, I woke up to the New World Order because aliens are abducting me. That's how that came along.
Yeah. Well, I find it's amazing how many different ways you can wake up to the New World Order, because the New World Order controls everything.
This is true. It's all pervasive.
How do you overthrow something that is holding up everything?
Well, what I encourage people to look into is the deeper aspects of all this. This is why I do handstands and I jump for joy when I hear David Icke talk about the nature of consciousness and how this controlling factor is intentionally muting consciousness to the point where so many people are feeble-minded and slow-witted. And there is more to the New World Order. I mean, the symbology that's all around us hints at something much deeper and darker. What these entities have done is they have worked through, by genetic intervention, these ruling hybrid bloodlines. I call the David Icke hypothesis, because he popularized the whole concept. Although many of us knew this was going on, no one could have done a better job than David Icke putting it out to the masses. These reptilian entities have infiltrated the human race. They've corrupted the gene pool through genetic manipulation. They've imbued their loathsome characteristics of aggression, territoriality, sadism, so on and so forth, into large masses of the gene pool. And through these elite hybrid bloodlines, who are essentially the plantation managers of this planet, they've imposed all these changes and all these laws, and at the same time they've muted human consciousness through their educational system, through the general dumbing down process, fluoride vaccines, so on and so forth. And I encourage people to look at the bigger picture, because if one were to omit UFOs and non-human intelligences from a study of the New World Order, they are omitting the key facet of it. It is, for one thing, it's non-scientific, because these forces, these intelligences have been with us all along. It's reflected in the art, it's reflected in ancient texts, in literature. So to just dismiss out of hand all any suggestion that there's a non-human intelligence behind all this is not only non-scientific, it's non-historical. And once again, these same ruling bloodlines have controlled the education system. So by and large, people don't know the history of this planet. They don't know the history of the human race. They don't know that the humans have been around for a very long time. Forbidden Archaeology by Michael Cremo and Richard Thompson, absolute must reading. What's happening now is the reptilian overlords are shooting for the works. They're pulling out all the stops because they know that they are working against a celestial timetable. These cataclysms, celestially driven cataclysms, are cyclical. They come around every 12,500 years thereabouts. The reptilian overlords and their hybrid minions, who are the plantation managers, know we are on the cusp of all these radical earth changes, and they are getting their control grid in place. They've been working on depopulation for some time. They know there will be a mass culling and consequent release of many souls, because once again, that's what this is all about, souls and DNA. And they're getting everything in place. And it's important for us to realize that it's more than just power mad bankers and industrialists and financiers we're up against, that there is a malign influence working through the top levels of the elite, as well as a lot of their middle level and lower level minions. But
Is there anything?
ultimately, this agenda.
Is there anything above that? You know, like people have talked about these archons, reptilian entities, aliens, and so on and so forth. Is there anything above them? I wonder.
Yes, yes, there is. When I think of the term archons, the Gnostic description of these malign influences, I see it kind of as an umbrella catch-all term. Different types of negative ETs are part of this archontic influence, as are the reptilians. There are snake entities that not many people know exist, and these snake entities take up other entities as hosts. They take up reptilians as hosts. They take up mantis beings as hosts. They take up human beings as hosts. So it's parasites within parasites within parasites. These archontic beings are essentially parasitic in nature. It is all about energetic harvesting. It is a frequency war. We humans are resonators. We emit frequencies, and it behooves these archontic negative beings to keep us at a low vibratory ebb, a low negative frequency. And they do this constantly by bombarding us with the
Sex,
mass
drugs,
media entrainment,
rock and roll,
the
BS.
sex, drugs, the fear. And one of the key facets of control was shunting us from the right hemisphere to the left hemisphere of our brain. We must regain that balance between masculine and feminine. What happened, in a nutshell, was after the most recent series of cataclysms, 12,500 years ago, if you're familiar with Dr. Paul Laviolette's work, the galactic superwave emanating from the galactic center, we're in alignment with the galactic center again, the dark rift, as the Maya call it. And the tail end of that came the passage of one or more very large comets. And if you're familiar with Dr. James McCanney's work, the plasma comet discharge model, we don't have to be hit by these comets. They emit tremendous electrical discharges. They push before them a large gravitational wave. So long story short, after the Earth settled into its new axis and the survivors came out of the caves, these reptilian entities took the opportunity of genetically manipulating the smaller group of surviving humans. Most, if not all, of the advanced human and alien civilizations that were on the surface of the earth. And remember, the Egyptians talk about how their civilization is actually 36,000 years old. It was a legacy. There were no more of these advanced civilizations on the surface to contend with, because they either left, went underground, or got destroyed. Atlantis is an example. So there was a smaller group of surviving humans, which they then genetically manipulated. And then in the process, they also foisted these harsh patriarchal monotheistic religions. They imposed alphabet languages, symbol languages, which shunted us from the right symbolic intuitive side to the left side. And with alphabet language come scribes, come laws, come a form of control, which can be passed down generationally. And so that brings us up to the present, where you have these people that pass out of university that are just complete dolts and really don't know which way is up. And people that are shunted into the left hemisphere brain can be made to do and believe anything. They can be made to hate. The easiest thing to do is to make people in large numbers hate or fear anything. And so it's a vibratory ebb of fear, anger, hatred that's being pumped into us constantly. A fear of want, of austerity, a fear of starvation, artificial scarcity, the whole bit. And so David Icke talks about this a lot. So we are constantly on the defensive. And when we are in this low vibratory ebb, individually and as a society, it makes it much easier for these archontic beings to parasitically feed off of us.
Yeah, okay, well, we're coming up to a break very shortly here. It occurs to me, Voltaire once said, if people can make you believe absurdities, they can make you commit atrocities. And you have a look around at the world, it's pretty atrocious. We'll be right back with James Bartley, ladies and gentlemen. Don't you go anywhere.
No matter where you live, globalism affects you. Did you know that the Vinnie Eastwood Show has more subscribers than New Zealand Herald TV and is New Zealand's most popular YouTube news channel, where warm-hearted humour and a list of awesome guests talk about crucial issues which the mainstream media ignore. A show where you, the listener, can phone up with questions, comments and suggestions of guests. Vinnie is building a hub to connect truthers with raw information they need to become active. He can help you gain further skills such as website building, producing audio and video, and creating revenue streams in your own multimedia environment. Because Vinnie supports such a wide range of people in the truth movement, he is not government or corporate backed and relies entirely on your donations. Give now, give generously, or subscribe for $10 a month for access to ad-free video archives. Just visit thevinnieeastwoodshow.com and click donate.
He's lectured in a number of places, including Memphis, Tennessee, and the state of Mississippi, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, San Diego, California, at the UFO Friendship Campouts near Area 51, manning a sniper rifle, just in case anybody from the security forces comes and blows his head off, Las Vegas, Nevada, and Roswell, New Mexico, and just to name a few. He's also co-facilitator a New Zealand-based bunker full of, scary Nazi zombies who incidentally, happened to be genetically engineered and invaded this country long ago and are now ahead of the parliament. Now, my very special guest is James Bartley, who is an alien abductee. He's exposed high levels of spiritual warfare from the OSS. And I always found funny how the OSS was just basically a couple of serpents and an all-seeing eye kind of logo. That was very interesting. It's like, that doesn't look like the Illuminati trying to take control of the United States and the Department of Defense at all, does it? No, not at all. Kind of like the MI5 and MI6 logos, which are basically just a pyramid all-seeing eye. Now, but nevertheless retains a positive, upbeat outlook on life, so he's a good fit for the show. Is an independent historian specializing in military history with an emphasis on intelligence, counterintelligence, and special operations. Now, people might think that military intelligence is an oxymoron. James has studied the development of the intelligence and security apparatus, which is spawned by the Second World War. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting episode of the Vinnie Eastwood Show, the show where the music never stops and the technical difficulties are a plague and the light of this world seems to shrink and vanish into some description of deep underground.